Parenthood is a blessing. It is a chance for you to bring forth new life into this world, to be the guide for this new being as they start their journey. Raising a child can be a joy, but with that joy comes an immense responsibility that can make parenthood difficult. At the end of the day, as a parent, you are responsible for the actions of your child. You are responsible for giving them what they need to have a fair start in life. And that can be incredibly difficult and nerve-wracking, but it is worth it to see them walk through life, find their calling, build relationships, and grow to the point where they can have children of their own, and the beautiful cycle of life can continue. This is why it is imperative that no matter what a child throws at you, you must do your best to be a good role model and lead them on a healthy path. Now, of course, I know all of this because I have been a parent to Chao, but it's essentially the same thing. And if I've learned anything from my time as a parent, it's that when a child takes too long to be born, you just throw them at a cliff. Works every time. Hello, my fellows and fellas, and welcome back to AP Alfred, where our topic for the day is child development and how good Sonic the Hedgehog is at raising children, and also how bad Eggman is at it. For some reason, anytime he raises a child, they become a demon, and anytime Sonic raises a child, they become a literal angel? I may have to double check their resumes. I've played a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog in my time. Sonic Mega Collection was actually the first video game I ever played, and I played everything on that little disc, all the way down to the promotional trailers that were actually just Japanese trailers that they slapped some English text on in Adobe Premiere. While I loved all the trailers, one in particular caught my attention. The trailer for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I was just a baby at the time, so I didn't actually know what was going on, but it had cool music and running and rail grinding and two-player whatever that was, and skateboarding and this. I didn't know what was going on here, but I knew I wanted it. It wouldn't be until many years later when I went to GameStop and found a used copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle that I would actually get to experience the wonder that is this game. Now I mostly will play the game on PC, but I still have the GameCube game, and no matter how convenient the PC release is, it will never beat out this disc design. People used to do super cool things with the disc design to make it pop out and get you all excited for the game. Now people just put the title and legal information on it like it's an afterthought. But looking at the disc is only the beginning of the experience, because once you boot up the game, you get to run through a grand adventure full of action and battles and insane parkour, and then this. Once you happen upon these things called Chao Key, whatever character found the Chao Key gets to enter the Chao Garden, where you're greeted with 2 eggs and endless possibilities. You see, these are eggs for Chao, adorable little creatures that you get to raise. I mean, I'm not a plushie guy, but if there were a line of Chao plushies, you can bet my bed would be overrun. Oh no. Back in the day, I had no idea of all the insane things you could do with Chao, but I still loved this mode a ton. It was so fun to get to raise these little guys and train them. It was a great break from the fast-paced action of the rest of the game. But then, when I discovered the internet and learned you could do this, I became obsessed with this mode. So let's take a look at the Chao Garden and why it's so cool and so depressing that Sega has refused choose to bring it back. Like, at least make a mobile game. I hate to admit it, but I would pay real-world money for a modern-day Chao black market. Oh yeah, these little guys have a black market inside their kindergarten. We'll get to that. But first, let's meet our two little eggs. Chao are born in these little egg things, and you have a few options for how they can enter the world. You can either be the boring kid nobody likes by waiting around for these Chao to hatch on their own, or if you were like literally any other kid and were completely impatient, you could hatch the egg by rocking it back and forth, coaxing your little guy into the world. Or if you would rather be an absolute heathen, you could just hatch them by throwing them against the side of a cliff. You'll feel guilty for the rest of your life, but it is effective. So now we have our two little babies. They're beautiful. One I hatched calmly, and one I threw against the rock. And believe it or not, this one action can start to set them on the path of life they will have. You see, there are 3 life paths a Chao can take. They can either stay a neutral Chao forever and be the ultimate centrist, or they can be a goody two-shoes and ascend to heaven, or they can become a demon child and end up in hell. There's a literal blood pool here. What the heck? Who a Chao becomes will depend on their influences from other characters, whether the character you play as is good or bad, and how you treat them. For instance, since I'm Sonic, a good guy, and I am hanging out with the Chao, they will be more inclined to turn good. If I were an evil character here like Shadow and took care of them, they would be more inclined to turn evil. And if you give them a balanced diet of good and evil influences, they'll become a neutral Chao. However, it gets even more complex than that. You see, since I hatched the one Chao as Sonic in a nice way, that Chao will be positively influenced by the side of good. But since I hatched this Chao by chucking him against the wall while being a good character, he will not view the good characters as nicely and will be more inclined to turn evil. You can also try to convince a Chao to choose one specific side by giving them either a hero or dark fruit, but to get that, you have to go to the black market inside the kindergarten. So let's go to the kindergarten and see what we can do here. You can take your Chao to class, go to the doctor, shop at the black market, or visit a fortune teller, which is actually how you give your Chao names. I'd say these two little guys are old enough to have their names, so let's get these brothers some names. Here we go. Cain and Abel. I'm sure nothing will go wrong with that. With our Chaos named, we can drop them off at kindergarten, where they can learn new skills and actually have their skills grow over time. They can go from drawing garbage like this to being able to draw Big the Cat fan art. I'm such a proud father. But while my Chao are in class, I should go shopping at the black market, where we can buy fruits and toys and even full-on Chao eggs from this dude in a locker, which, you know, raises a lot of questions. How did he get the eggs? Is this like some sort of messed up adoption thing where instead of unwanted children going to an orphanage, they go here to be sold for profit? Are Chao treated as property to be bought and sold by sketchy dudes in back alleys? Pretty much, yeah. To buy things though, you'll need rings, which means you'll have to play the actual game to get rings that you can use to buy things. And honestly, I love this idea. It gives collecting rings and other items in the game an actual purpose rather than just not dying. It gives you a reason to want to actually put in the effort. Now, an important thing to note here is how time passes in the garden. Time in the Chao garden only passes when you are actually in the Chao garden area. So you won't ever miss out on something happening if you're playing through the story, which is good because there are moments in the life cycle of a Chao you won't want to miss. Yes, I said life cycle of a Chao. Let me explain. Chao go through different stages of their life. First is the childhood stage, which lasts for 1 Chao year, or 3 real-life hours. So after you spend 3 real hours with your Chao, they will evolve into an adult. This is where they will choose their life path, which is dependent upon how you treated them, the kinds of influences they had, and what items you give them. You see, in levels in the main game, you can collect these power drives and animals by killing enemies. Anytime you walk back into the garden, you'll have the chance to give these to your Chao to boost certain stats and make them proficient in certain areas. What they are proficient in will determine how they can evolve. Now you may be wondering, why do Chao have stats? Well, so you can force them to fight for profit, of course! And people thought Pokemon was rough. At least in Pokemon, you don't actually raise and bond and live out life with your creatures before sending them to die, there's two main events Chao can participate in: karate and racing, which are basically exactly what they sound like. But that is only part of the purpose of a Chao. Remember, they are living beings. They want to reproduce. Yes, Chao can have... You have to time it right though. Either two Chao must be in their mating season, which you'll know by seeing flowers and a heart over their head, or you can give them a heart fruit to try and convince them to mate. When they mate, there's a ritual. They dance around, rub together, and poop out an egg with a baby that will actually be a combination of the traits for the two parents. But just as Chao can bring out new life, they all must eventually see the end of their own life. Chao die. You get so close and attached to these guys, and then you have to watch them die. Sega used to be hardcore, man. The average Chao will live for about 15 real-world hours, but this will change depending on the kind of life a Chao lives. If the Chao lives a happy life, they're likely to live longer. If the Chao lives a life of sadness and loneliness, their life will be much shorter. That's cutting a little too close to home here. But here's the thing, not all Chao die. When a Chao reaches the end of their life, there are two paths they can take. Either they die, or they will reincarnate into a new egg and live out a new life again. If a Chao is happy at the time of its death, it will reincarnate and get to live out another life. If a Chao is not happy at the time of their death, they will pass into the void forever. Because they hated life so much, they don't want to live anymore. Wow, that is incredibly depressing. Chao can be depressed and wish to die forever. And this is a kid's game. There's one other way a Chao can leave your life, but it's something only scumbags do. You can send your Chao away. Literally send it packing to become a hobo Chao. This is probably the worst thing you can do in the entire game. Even the game itself questions you multiple times when you try to send off a Chao. It's all like, are you really sure you want to say goodbye forever? Then when you do send it away, they say it goes to a faraway forest where it will live a happy life. Look, the game can try all at once to try and make me feel better about this, but this is essentially the same thing as saying the family dog went to live a happy life on a farm. We all know what that really means. Back on the older versions of Sonic Adventure, this machine used to have other purposes than getting rid of Chao. On the Dreamcast game, you could transfer your Chao into the VMU, so you could take it with you and play a game with it, and then you could bring it back to your system when you were done. On the GameCube, you could transfer your Chao to the Sonic Advanced Game Boy Advanced game, where they could hang out in the tiny Chao Garden, so you could take them with you wherever you go. The Chao Garden is seriously impressive, and I've still only scratched the surface of all that happens here. Your Chao can get sick and has to get medicine from the doctor to get better. Your Chao will actually age over time. You can find items for them, and sometimes they'll wear it like a little hat, and it's adorable. You can evolve a Chao into this thing called a Chaos Chao, and to do that, you need to have a Chao that is reincarnated twice, be very happy, be given one of every animal, and have balanced stats. There were also special Chao that you could only get from certain circumstances, like getting the Tails Chao through Phantasy Star Online, or the Knuckles or Amy Chao through the GameCube Software e-catalog. I see a lot of people make fun of the Chao Garden and Sonic Adventure 2 as a whole, but just how well thought out and well designed the garden is, it's still insane to me. And remember, this is all still part of a much bigger game that is worth the price of entry on its own. They didn't have to add all this in there, and yet they did. And I think that this is all just indicative of how things have changed over time. If the Chao Garden were to be a thing now, it would probably be a DLC expansion and you'd have to pay real money in the Chao black market. Things have changed, and as gaming has grown, the corporate structure of it has grown, meaning creators now always have to prove that something can be profitable before they're able to pursue it. Whereas back in the day, you could just add a whole pet simulator into your Sonic game because why not? While the fact that we may never see anything like this again is is sad, it also makes the Chao garden even more special. It truly is unique, and I know I and many others will always cherish the memories of raising Chao in the garden. I'll also never be able to forget the horrors of the dark garden. Besides from the blood pool and creepy music, I swear I remember that Chao would shiver and cry when they're in the dark garden. Those images will haunt me forever, which is why I've decided to start up a new nonprofit called Rescue the Chao. We focus on making sure they grow up with positive influences and healthy levels of happiness so they'll love life and want to be reincarnated. How do we take care of abandoned Chao, you ask? It's simple. We scour eBay for old memory cards and VMUs with Chao on them, and then we raise them right. Although I don't know why I'm saying we, it would be more accurate to just say I. I'm kind of running this whole thing by myself, which means I have to take care of these hundreds of Chao by myself. It's gonna be okay, guys. Please stop crying. The cops called on me. The neighbors are pounding. The lights are going up. Yep, I am never having children. Class dismissed.